Here in our Tel Aviv studios, joining us a spokesperson for the Armenian Culture Center in Israel, Mr. Meni Korsansky from Baku, Azerbaijan, chairman of the Center of Analysis of International Relations, AIR Center, Mr. Farid Shafiev, and Mr. Dan Perry, International Affairs Analyst. Hello, gentlemen. Thank you very, very much for joining us this evening. And our main topic, why now? And why again? So let's get to it, dear gentlemen. Are Azerbaijan and Armenia stuck in this never-ending conflict? Mr. Shafiev, your take, please.
Well, I think it's the whole process and clashes is the consequences of 30 years of Armenian occupation and incursion on the Azerbaijan territory. The only way forward is the peace treaty. And unfortunately, we have some problem with the negotiations between Armenia and Azerbaijan.
Mr. Dan Perry, your thoughts?
I am familiar with this topic from consulting work that my firm has done with an Armenia-related think tank focused on regional stability and development, and I have to say that as a disclaimer, really, but also as the former Europe editor of AP. So yes, I remember the dispute over Nagorno-Karabakh from decades ago, and it looks like it's far from being resolved. But as has been said, I would point out that beyond the narrative of two squabbling tribes that the media sometimes lazily gets into, what happened this week is that Azerbaijan attacked sovereign Armenian territory, and that's an assault on a global rules-based order. And if the world wants to prevent this from being permanent as a conflict, it would be wise to push back.
Mr. Shafiev, the events there are not disconnected from Ukraine whatsoever. Is it possible that Baku sought to somewhat utilize this opportunity while Armenia's key ally, Russia, is too busy with the troubles in Ukraine and diverted all the attention there? Is it possible the timing here is no coincidence?
Well, yeah, you see, if we look at the trajectory of the events from the end of the Second Karabakh War from November 2020, we had the occasional clashes in the border zone, but also on the territory of Azerbaijan. So I don't think it's primarily related to the Russian-Ukrainian war, though I would agree that the context now is greatly influenced by the geopolitical shift in our region. And as you said, the Armenian closest ally, Russia, is now busy with the war against Ukraine. Yeah. But in the meantime, we should also keep in mind that Azerbaijan, yes, has a good relationship with Russia. So it's not like Azerbaijan is utilizing the Russian problems in Ukraine.
Yes, and many stakeholders in that
Azerbaijan has not just a good relationship with Russia. Aliyev was in Moscow signing a very robust collaboration agreement, including on strategic issues, days before Russia invaded Ukraine. So we're talking about something rather special happening between Azerbaijan and Russia. And I have to think, Ellie, that the implication in your question is correct. I mean, what Putin has done in Ukraine certainly emboldens other countries waiting in the wings to see if irredentism and revanchism can work in this world. I mean, Azerbaijan is a small example of it. China and Taiwan is much bigger. So I think what's happening in Russia, we don't know how it's going to end, but it has implications on many things, including the notion of the sanctity of borders and a rules-based world order.
Yeah, and many Korsansky, perhaps because, and not despite what's unfolding in Ukraine, can Russia really afford itself not to intervene?
Well, Russia now plays on both sides, both on the Armenian side and from the Azerbaijan. And it has to do with the situation with Ukraine, because now there is sanctions against Russia, and it influenced the gas supply to Europe. President Aliyev decided to launch his killer attack against Armenia. I repeat one more time, Armenian land, not Nagorno-Karabakh, because he knows that he will not severe any sanctions because Europe depend on his gas and the oil supply. That's it.
Let's broaden our sphere a bit. Is Nagorno-Karabakh in the middle of this tectonic plate clash of Sinosphere and an Anglosphere, so to speak. Mr. Dan Perry, your thoughts?
It's obviously a complicated conflict with many different players involved, but I think if you look at the essence, we're witnessing one of several collision points between the authoritarian world and the democratic world. Armenia is not a model by any means, but it is a young, developing democracy, which is fundamentally a Western-oriented in its preferences, at least, despite its complex realities, whereas Azerbaijan is a dictatorship run by the Aliyev family.
Mr. Shafayev, what's more important here? And it is perhaps a blunt question, but a necessary question listening to you gentlemen discuss. The feelings, quote unquote, of the international community or the feelings of the people on the ground?
Well, again, we should have unified approach. I know the international community supports territorial integrity of Ukraine, Georgia, and I think by listening to the people on the ground, as I said, if we look at the many ethnic minorities, might not be happy to live within the parent country, but it's about international law, it's about the historical rights, and about the fact that somebody mentioned it's the dictatorship versus democracy. Well, if Armenia is democracy, why Pashinyan never apologized for ethnically cleansing Azerbaijanis in Nagorno-Karabakh, because no Azerbaijanis left in Nagorno-Karabakh when it was controlled by Armenian forces. No Azerbaijanis left in Armenia. Why democratic Armenia won't apologize for that, won't restitute the properties of Azerbaijanis inside Armenia? So really, international law has certain rules, and we should have unified approach and not the double standards.
Manny Korsansky, your thoughts?
My thoughts are as following. First of all, you blame Armenia for not apologizing. What about you? What atrocities did you do with the Armenian population that basically built Baku? What did you do with them? What did you do in Samgait, in Malaga? The Operation Ring in Nagorno-Karabakh, using the Russian units to cleanse the region of Karabakh from its native population, the Armenians. And if you talk about history, let me emphasize one thing. The region of Artsakh, it has churches in it from the 5th century, while your nation are Muslims, which became Azerbaijanis in about 100 years ago. So what history are we do we talk about here?
No, we are younger than Coca-Cola. We are younger than Coca-Cola. And I know that we have, if we look at the Armenian narratives, we are wild, nomadic, Muslim people. So we have no right to live on our land, on our territory, and to stay. What I can say about this kind of...
You have no right to kill other nation, what you do. You follow your big brother Turkey to finish the genocide politics. That's what you do.
In a different political climate, this Armenian minority might find itself, might call it a home?
It's a question that has to be asked of the Armenian representatives. If Azerbaijan was a more convivial place, would it not be reasonable that you could suffice with living there as a minority? And the Armenian ethnic people of Nagorno-Karabakh don't trust Azerbaijan, and their answer is basically no.
I want to mention the pogroms in Sumgait, in Baku, the killings of the Armenian population in Azerbaijan in the 80s. So, and right now, after what has been said and done, and there is no chance that Armenians could ever live and feel safe with Azerbaijan, by Azerbaijani rule. They tried it already in the Soviet Union. It ended up in pogroms, in massacres. No chance.
Mr. Shafayev, yeah.
Yeah, I would like to respond, first of all, about this sort of the Armenians cannot live under the current system in Azerbaijan. Let me recall that the conflict began in 1988, long before Aliyev, so it's not about democracy.
Prime Minister Pashinyan has declared a time of peace, and I just came back from Armenia. I know what I'm talking about. And the Armenian nation...
There's no question, and you're right, Mr. Korsansky, to focus on the fact that this week, Azerbaijan absolutely attacked sovereign Armenian territory. And I know that the original spin, but the original spin was that, they were somehow provoked. I see that's going away. They clearly did it. And I have to wonder, Mr. Shafayev, why they did that. Because in so doing, they sort of dropped one of their advantages, which is the argument that the borders are sacrosanct.
Let's allow Mr. Shafayev to reply, please. Yeah.
Well, again, the clashes happened due to the provocations, and now even the Armenians admitting that we planted some mines on the border zones. So we never had really a peaceful border. We had always constant shellings from the Armenian territory. And if, again, the paradigm, I agree, now changed, because the Azerbaijani army now decided to respond on the Armenian territory, because all these 30 years, everything
is a lie. That is a lie.
You cannot always say lie. Okay.
I explain why.
Gentlemen, unfortunately, we will have to wrap it up here. We need to take another break. Meni Korsansky, Mr. Farid Shafayev, and then Perry, thank you very much for your time. Hopefully, we can continue the discussion soon. Out for a last 2-minute break, and we're back with much more. Don't go anywhere.